Well, for more on Year of the Ox branding, let's bring in Michael Zakkour via Skype. He's the founder of 5 New Digital and the author of The New Retail, Born in China, Going Global. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Rachelle. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So as you look around then, which companies really bet big on the Year of the Ox offerings and how are they faring?
Yeah, I mean, virtually every global brand who has a presence in China bet big on Chinese New Year. It's a more matter of who won the bet and who lost the bet. One of my favorites for the year so far is Nike dropped the new Air Jordan Low in China, and it's just the perfect blend of localization and the great Nike brand DNA, and it really hit a home run, both from the ads, the promotions, the product itself. It used to be, 18 years ago when I started in China, my Chinese friends used to tell me to buy stuff in America and bring it to them. This year I had to tell my friends in Shanghai to get me a pair of Nike Lows.
I mean, we've certainly seen that after the advertising missteps and some of the cultural insensitivities that we've seen from foreign brands in their attempt to really entice Chinese shoppers during this holiday, have we seen then better awareness and understanding with this year's offerings?
Yeah, I think, in the luxury brands especially, have learned over the years how to balance respect for the culture, respect for the sensibilities and sophistication of the shopper, and still being a bit playful and a bit holiday appropriate. Unfortunately, there is one brand that does very well in China that just missed again. Burberry was one of the companies that lost their bet this year. Their ad campaign pictured a very dour, washed out, almost gothic horror style family against a city backdrop, and it just didn't work. In fact, it was one of the most negatively talked about campaigns on Chinese social media over the holidays. So it's still a balance. You really have to understand language, culture, history, and socialization to get it right. And I'm just mystified that Burberry missed again.
And as you mentioned, you do see a lot of these hits and misses talked about on Chinese social media. So what about the trends that you're seeing when it comes to competition from homegrown Chinese brands and some more patriotic shoppers?
Yeah, I think you've definitely seen over the last 2 years, and it's certainly reflected in this new Golden Week, is the rise of Chinese fashion brands really making an impact and really giving some of the foreign apparel brands a run for their money. But what's interesting about this particular year is, we had the usual hits and misses. The brands all played their part. The good news is consumption is up. But some of the most important stories out of this Chinese New Year don't have to do with the actual brands and products themselves. But what some of the big winners were this year, like e-commerce was a big winner. Obviously, it's been up through the COVID year in China. But everybody, searches for gift for family or gift for parents was up 5 times on Baidu this year. So the big difference this year is usually there are about 4 billion trips taken during the Chinese New Year, right, and that's only a quarter of the usual 1 billion this year. So there's a lot of staycations, a lot of e-commerce. Live streaming made its debut on the Chinese Spring Festival Gala last night, and so Via, the #1 KOL and live streamer, made her debut. Farmers were selling their local produce on the gala, so live streaming was a big winner. And the last one was very surprising to me, but maybe not so surprising. Solo meals, prepackaged meals, were being sold on Alibaba's Taobao and on Jingdong for the hundreds of millions of people who couldn't go home to see their families and would normally rely on their family to cook for them. Millions of pre-packaged meal kits were sold across China this year.
And we certainly see a lot of consumer behavior changing because this really isn't a typical New Year because of the pandemic. What about how the pandemic has affected various campaigns and both the money that they're spending with their holiday offerings and some of the messaging that they've had to change?
Yeah, I think a lot of the messaging had to be a little bit more muted this year. A little bit more sensitive to what's happening in China and in the world for that matter. But again, I think most of the brands we look at, like Moschino, Cartier, very tasteful, subtle. They altered the message slightly, but still keeping it playful enough and celebratory enough to kindle the holiday spirit in consumers.
So just very quickly, as you look at the bulk of the holiday spending, are you seeing that more so in luxury or mid-price or for budget shoppers this year?
It's definitely on the uptick is in the mid-range and luxury. Your previous segment had, mentioned luxury really being buoyed by China's spending this year, some $53 billion. I think some of the biggest headline makers and the biggest spenders this year, Tmall's luxury pavilion is having a banner holiday season. That's been a story 3 years in the making, and I think this is really the first Chinese New Year where the luxury pavilion has come into its own. So I'd say, as Chinese consumers tend to move up the scale, definitely the more of the holiday spending, even for gifting as well as the self, is in that mid to affordable luxury to luxury range.
All right, well, thank you. Great having you on. Michael Zakkour there, founder of 5 New Digital and author of New Retail, Born in China, Going Global.